Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, want me to scrub the registers at peak time? Sure thing, boss. You can't work with us. Okay, I won't. I exposed my manager as a hypocrite. Insurance firm insists on direct billing even though cousin preferred reimbursement. Okay, then. Have it your way. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Want me to scrub the registers at peak time? Sure thing, boss. I work in the store where you pay for a cart and the cashiers all sit. The store floors frequently get pretty dirty because, well, there's a lot of customers coming in and out, especially at the time this story happens. I'm doing some back stock when the mod comes up to me and says, "Hey, store manager wants you to scrub produce and the register area." Keep in mind, our scrubber is a behemoth, loud, and can be difficult to maneuver, not the best equipment to pull out at 5 p.m. on a Monday. Also, there are lines 8 to 10 people deep at both open registers. I point this out to the mod and she just shrugs, saying, "Just get it done." Okay then. I pull out the scrubber, and happen to get a lucky break. Produce is empty, so it only takes me a couple minutes. Now the registers. Still crowded. I take the scrubber around the empty registers, feeling the glare of customers on my back. Whether it was from the noise or the weight, I don't know, and nor do I care. Now I'm left with the two jam-packed registers. There's no way I could ask people to wait a moment to let me through, they're already pissed. I can see the manager coming, gesturing at me to get it done. So I do the most efficient thing I can think of. I go to the back of the line, shut down the scrubber and wait. And wait and wait and wait. Customers are lining up behind me and the cashiers are holding back a laugh as I creep closer. Finally, I'm next, and I run the scrubber through the registers. Thankfully the line on the second register cleared just as I was finishing the first. All done. I take the scrubber back to the back room, and I had just started to empty it when the store manager comes storming in. "SM, why did that take you so long? Scrubbing is supposed to go quickly, we're too busy for you to be standing around." Me, "You wanted me to scrub the registers, but the registers were packed. I told Maud that it would take a while." "SM, you weren't scrubbing, you were just standing in line." Me, "Yup. That was the best way to get through the line." The SM and I have a stare down for a few seconds before she throws her hands up and walks away. And I've never been asked to scrub the registers during peak times again. You can't work with us. Okay, I won't. This is a long one, buckle up. I started this job in December 2018. The team was small, 7 of us, including me. Quickly after I started, it became clear that May 6th didn't like me at all. The bullying started off subtly, ignoring me. I was aware of what they were doing, so after a little while of this, I began mirroring their behavior. They didn't like that. It escalated. I began to develop migraines from the stress. As much as I hadn't been bothered in the beginning, there's only so long you can go in an environment like that without some kind of effect. By this point, it had been several months. The migraine started to affect my attendance regularly. Of course, they didn't like that either and things continued to escalate. The manager knew all that was happening, but nothing changed. Well, anyway. I wanted another baby, so my husband and I decided to use the job for what it was worth, a nice 9 month long paid maternity leave. So about 1 year after I started the job, I became pregnant. Then came my birthday. I was expecting nothing, of course. But I got a card and some chocolates from the girls, aka, the only one with a conscience signed it from the girls because she didn't want me to get nothing, and no, they'd flat out refused. Put it down to pregnancy hormones, but when she gave it to me, I of course knew it was only from her and cried my little eyes out. This was a Thursday. The next day, I asked my manager to work alone. I covered all the wards, I was a hospital phlebotomist, by myself while they stayed in the clinic. When I was done, I helped out the nursing assistants in the clinic across to avoid them. Later my manager came down to see me and discuss. Apparently they had complained to her that I had not helped them at all, even though it was so busy that they'd have to get the NAs to help, which was a lie since I was with the NAs all day, they never had to go help. I explained to the manager what had happened and that I just needed some space as the alternative would have been to go home. I began crying again, pregnancy, and the inevitable stress of being ganged up on for over a year by 5 people every day just gets to you after a while. The manager told me to take the following week off, free of charge, i.e., she'd not write me up. When I came back the following Monday, I wasn't okay, but I was better than I had been. I wondered what my reception would be, and lo and behold, it was shit. A whole confrontation went down, where one of them had the audacity to ask me if I had considered their feelings when I told our manager I didn't want to work with them on that Friday. Scoff. I knew I had turned some kind of mental corner, because I laughed in her face, finally stood up for myself instead of just ignoring it, and then walked off to do my job. And I didn't feel bad about it. This was in December 2019. At this point, I was about 6 weeks pregnant. And this is where my revenge began. I was pretty unwell through my pregnancy, and so heavily protected by UK laws and by the hospital's very own maternity policies, I wasn't making much of an effort to go to work when I didn't feel 100% okay to do so. Needless to say, I had quite the chunk of time off between December 2019 and early 2020. Fast forward to March 2020, and as you all know, coronavirus was in full swing and we were days away from a nationwide lockdown. Of course, ordinarily, this wouldn't affect me, because I worked in a hospital. But this is where, finally, my malicious compliance comes in. It was a late March Monday morning and I was in unusually high spirits on the way into my shift. My morning sickness was finally starting to abate and there'd been no drama for a little while. And I did actually really like my job when I was allowed to just do it. So I was in quite a good mood and I even greeted my bitchy colleagues cheerily. Well, I was greeted with a sharp, "You're not coming in here." I was confused, unsure as to what I could have possibly done over the last 4 days that I hadn't even seen this woman. So after asking her what she meant was she and our other colleague didn't want to go on the ward, so they just stuck to the clinic and had planned to send me there instead. We're meant to do the wards first and they start an hour before I did. Well, my manager and I had already agreed I'd not go on the wards due to the virus and my pregnancy. I sensed danger and went to call my manager. I let her know what had transpired and we agreed that I'd just find a spare room in the clinic and work in there. So I did. Not even 30 minutes later and lo and behold, grumpy colleague comes storming up to me, demanding to know why I didn't share the whole story with her. I say, "What story? There is no story." She says, "The agreement between our manager." I said, "What business is it of hers?" So she yells at me, "Well, you can't work with us, comma." I snap and tell her to sort her attitude out, and walk off from her. A very ballsy move for me. Well, I've had enough. I go to see my manager to tell her so. And when I get there, after telling her what was said, I say, since this colleague likes to act my supervisor so much, how about I finally take some direction from her? I won't work with her, or any of them, I'm done. My manager not only agrees, but tells me to shield instead, preserving my pay, fully paid sick leave and my PTO. Which took me up to my mat leave start date. Winner. And the kicker. They were stuck short-staffed for a full year during a pandemic, because my job was legally protected until I officially left it, which was not until March 2021. So I walked out mid-shift, left them high and dry, and in the words of my manager, they brought it on themselves. Editing to add. Thank you for the awards. TLDR at the bottom. A note to the victim blamers who seem to be making their way in: it's fine if you don't believe I was being bullied or that it was somehow my fault. I know what happened and I know how I dealt with it day to day. I don't divulge a great deal of details on what they did to me, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm also not saying I was perfect and did nothing wrong whatsoever. But whatever I did or didn't do, it doesn't warrant the treatment I experienced. I did my best with the situation I was in, and that's good enough for me. Please educate yourself on bullying. I exposed my manager as a hypocrite. Backstory: I work in a residential facility for people on probation. They can serve out a sentence there on work release or if they are sentenced to our drug treatment program. So they come and go a lot. Part of my job is sending anything new they bring back to the property office to be inventoried or held as contraband, stuff that isn't illegal but they can't have it in the facility. Like chewing tobacco. They are not allowed to bring outside food or drink, so part of my job is throwing it away if it's perishable or unwrapped. This guy returned with a bag of burgers and burritos his job was throwing away, so I disposed of it and he complained to the policy compliance manager who runs the property office. She told me that I had to get with that client for financial reimbursement. I tried getting her to understand that I threw that stuff away because it would not keep back in the office as her own policy states, and she didn't care. Her words to me were, "Property officers are the ones who sort through the property for contraband or disposable items. Your job is not to review the property, just bag it up and label it with their name. Everything goes through property." She even underlined the word "everything" in her email. It felt like she was making up her own rules despite what policy said, because she didn't want to deal with a complaining work release inmate. The malicious compliance. Yesterday a client returned with a half-eaten bag lunch we provide people leaving for work in case they can't feed themselves. I saw my opportunity. I did exactly what you think and sent a brown bag of half-eaten sandwich and cornbread to be inventoried as property. I saw her email today going off on me for being passive-aggressive or that I need to be retrained. She normally doesn't CC anyone else in her emails about issues, but she did today. My direct supervisor, the operations commander, and the deputy director were all included so they could see her be *tch me out over the half-eaten food I sent her staff. She must have felt like Obi-Wan having the high ground. Too bad she did in fact underestimate my power. I included even more supervisory staff in my response and directly quoted her original emails to me and pointed out that she told me her staff were the ones that throw things away and that I was to bag and tag everything. I was later told by my laughing supervisor that the director himself laughed as he told her, "You told him to send you everything, you can't get upset because he did what you said." Edit. Some of the comment notifications I'm getting are from people apparently really upset that I'm throwing food away. While I do agree it's important to look out for people trying to get their life together on probation, please let me reassure you that we feed them 3 meals a day in our cafeteria, make them food trays to be saved for later in a fridge set aside specifically for people who miss meals due to their work schedule, and always have bag lunches made fresh daily for them to take with them when they leave. There are even vending machines available to them. We are not starving them if they try to bring in outside food. The rules about outside food are made clear to them day one. Chill. Insurance firm insists on direct billing even though cousin preferred reimbursement. Okay, then. Have it your way. I may get some insurance-related terms confused because I am not knowledgeable about private insurance systems outside my country, India. My cousin is Indian and lives in India and works for a major American cruise line. His usual schedule is 9 months of work sailing around North America and 3 months of vacation time back in India. The maritime insurance company that he's insured with provides medical coverage for him. When he was on vacation in India, he tore his ACL and MCL, and injured his meniscus playing football, soccer. It required a ligament reconstruction surgery and some months of rehab before he was fit to work again. There is public healthcare in India, but for something like knee ligament reconstruction, it still costs money, although not as much as private hospitals, and also takes time as there is a waiting list. So he decided to go private, which is costlier. He contacted the insurance company to confirm his eligibility to receive coverage, and they confirmed that he was indeed eligible. So he went to an arthroscopic surgeon and got a letter from him detailing the estimated cost of the surgery, the date, and other relevant medical details. He emailed the details to the insurance company, and they approved the surgery. Only one problem. They insisted on direct billing to the doctor. Now, doctors in India are familiar with direct billing, but it's mostly with insurance companies that operate domestically in India. Naturally, the doctor was hesitant to accept the arrangement despite receiving a letter of guarantee from them. He simply wasn't convinced of the legal validity of a letter of guarantee from a foreign insurance company in India. What if they, for some reason, refuse to pay? He can't do anything about it. So at this point, my cousin stepped in and suggested to the company that he'll foot the bill up front and then submit a claim, after which the company can reimburse him. The insurance company seemed to agree at first, but this medical cost containment company they were partnered up with was vehemently opposed to the idea. They insisted on direct billing even though it didn't make a lick of difference in terms of cost. He tried convincing them that no doctor in India would accept this arrangement from a foreign insurance company, but they wouldn't relent. At last, he said screw this and went on a citywide search and finally found a top doctor in one of the most expensive hospitals in the city who was willing to operate on his knee with a letter of guarantee. The doctor also worked in 3 months of post-op physiotherapy costs into the surgery bill. The hospital had the best rooms, the best service, and the highest quality of care. The doctor worked with some of the top athletes in the country, and the final estimated cost was at least 700% more than the previous doctor. The insurance company didn't object and simply approved the surgery. He expected them to question the cost, but it was only around $8,000, which is the equivalent of like 4 ambulance rides in America. That must be a paltry sum for the company. At the end of the day, my cousin got the best care possible because of the insurance company's inexplicable insistence. Or maybe they had good reason, but they lost money at the end of the day. Edit, everybody amazed at the 8K bill. Let me tell you, it's a small amount for Americans, but it's still a big bill in India. A lot of Americans are flocking to India for surgeries for this particular reason. You receive great quality healthcare at some of the best hospitals here, and the end cost is almost a fraction of what you would end up paying in the US, and that's including for the flight tickets and hotel tickets at hotels like Hilton and Marriott. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.